Here's your smart fact of the day.
So, here are three contradictory and complicated answers to whether India is going to face recession in the year 23-24. Right? The first one, the Hindu says, no problem, we are going to keep growing at 6 to 7%, and that is going to essentially be kind of reflecting what we are doing as an economy, and India is the fastest growing economy in the world. The Hindu says that we will continue to do so. On the other hand, there are some other reports, like perhaps the NDTV report, which says that while there is no such prospect of recession in India, India's growth may be negatively impacted by global conditions. And then there's the final one, which says that 66% of CEOs in India see a recession in the next 12 months. And that's what the survey said. So you have decision makers, you have economists, and you have, newspaper reporters and analysts say different things. Welcome to Smarter With Sid. And in this episode, what we are going to do is not debate on whether recession is coming to India or whether it's going to duck the global recession. But in case it does happen, what should our own recession reset be? And what does this term even mean? Let's go. Now, I hate being negative, at the beginning of any year, but COVID actually started at the beginning of 2020 and it was a pretty negative thing, wasn't it? So I think it's pretty stupid of any one of us to, not consider the fact that global recession is also going to impact India. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And, both you and I would have ducked a bullet or dodged a bullet, or whichever way you want to put that old idiom. But essentially, it's always good to consider the fact, especially if you are in a salesy job or a product development job or a marketing job or any client interaction job or strategic alliances, any external facing thing or anything that is going to get impacted by sales or revenue reducing, we should always look out for maybe negative tide winds and figure out what we can do at an individual level to kind of be the better off at the end of a year like this. Let's say that the context tells us that this year or whatever the next year is going to be like, the 23-24 year, is going to be a recessionary year. What can one do at an individual level? Now, this question, what can one do on an individual level, is what I call as a recession reset. See, we are all used to doing certain things in a certain way, and that is good when the times are good and the times are peaceful, but recession time is wartime. And in wartime, essentially, we have to look at different ways of doing things and we have to reset a few perspectives maybe, and maybe even reset a few routines or do a complete reset sometimes. And it's not a very comfortable thing because a recessionary trend tends to either make you lose a job or make you lose a budget if you are doing something which has got something to do with revenues or marketing or sales or whatever. Makes you lose a budget, makes you lose a project, makes you lose a client, kind of dampens your spirit, even though you're not directly impacted. So maybe you might be in HR, but then you're hiring lesser. Maybe you're in finance and then suddenly you see the numbers on the wall not looking really good. So recession hits all of us. And I think that because it hits all of us in an emotional way, I think we kind of do not consider the emotional impact of being in a recession. So what's the best way of actually tackling something like this? Now, as somebody who keeps traversing between UK and India, it's such an amazing, weird perspective that I have, because in the UK, everyone's looking at recession, everyone's looking at downturns and inflation at the same time. And it's a struggle. And it's in the winter, it is obviously a struggle. Heating bills increase and the whole thing. I don't need to paint a really sorry picture over here, but times are tough here in the UK. While in India, I think we are hearing all about the recessionary trends across the globe. And while we are positive and while we are gung-ho about India's economy and, the media is doing its bit, there is a lurking fear at the back of your mind, especially if you're kind of connected to the global economy, that is this going to impact me? Now, this can drain you of your personal power. And one of the best ways in which you can get your personal power back, and that is where I'm going to first principles after laying out the context, is through your health. I think a lot of us ignore our health and we get stressed out and we get completely bogged down into trying to survive. And while it is extremely important for us to try and survive and do well and keep our job and keep our project and the rest of it, I think just investing in our health in times of recession makes even more sense. Of course, staying healthy is always a great New Year resolution to have, but give it twice the strength this year, because if you're working out, then you're going to retain your health. And when times get better, you're going to actually thank yourself for having, withstood the test of time and have more energy and have more focus and all of the good stuff. So invest in your health. And I think that is an incredible part of having a recession reset. The second aspect that I would like to say is invest in your learning. Now, I understand that you might not be in a situation to invest in learning, which is expensive and, gets you that certification at an enormous cost. But if you invest in your learning and learning some specific skills that can be useful for people to, recognize you and call you as an expert, look at it as these 12 months that are going to make you an expert in an area that you always wanted to be an expert in. And you don't need to invest too much of money. But great part of a recession reset, especially if you've got more time on your hands because you've lost a job or, you're twiddling your thumbs waiting for the next project or clients are coming dry, is to invest in your learning and build that second skill. There's a podcast that I've done on building a second skill. Do take a look at that for more input on that. But that is the second part of a recession reset. And the third bit about the recession reset is to invest in your personal brand. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, whichever way in which you find voice, whether it's through writing or whether it is, through vlogging or whether it is making reels or making any kind of content and participating meaningfully in communities that matter to you, in interest-based groups that matter to you, is going to help you become stronger. So try and visualize this at the end of a recessionary year. Wouldn't you rather be healthier because you worked out consistently? Wouldn't you rather be somebody who knows a second skill, which is very valuable to people when we get out of recession? And wouldn't you rather be somebody who has a very strong network because of the personal brand that you've built, and that personal brand has pulled in so many people? So if you can visualize this is probably the best way in which you can deal with the recession. Deal with the controllables, deal with, just investing all this time in yourself, become a stronger, better person because of the recession. Take it as a bitter pill, maybe, because we all keep, pushing out things and scratching all those New Year resolutions and not really paying too much attention to goals. But this is an added impetus that we might get in this year because of what is potentially negative sort of situation for the whole world. But you could make, as I'd love to say, lemonade out of these lemons. Well, I really hope that you liked this specific episode of Recession Reset. And if you like this episode, do connect with me. I'm the Traveling Professor. I'm on Instagram and on LinkedIn. Do like and subscribe to this podcast because that allows me to, understand what kind of content I can create for this community of mine. There are a lot of times when I'm focused on the technical stuff like digital marketing and management skills and the rest of it. Sometimes I focus on attitude building, and sometimes I just focus on trends that we want to be aware of, right? And hey, if you like podcasts like these, take a look at all the other stuff that IBM's got for you. Some wonderful stuff out there. On that happy note.